Every grocery item on this list has a number attached to it, a price, a production forecast, a stockpile ratio, sitting somewhere in a USDA filing most people will never open. Numbers like that are usually the least exciting part of any grocery video. Here, they're the entire point. Because once you actually rank 12 staples by how much real risk sits underneath each one, the order that comes out is not what a typical thumbnail would guess. Picture a scale running from calm to critical, with 12 items placed along it, based on nothing but the data: supply chain exposure, how fast prices have actually moved, how long a shortage would take to fix if one started tomorrow, and whether the mechanism causing the pressure has already started or is still just a forecast. Sugar sits at the calm end for reasons that might surprise you. The item at the far end isn't just expensive anymore. It's the one closest to becoming genuinely difficult to find at a price most households would call normal. I pulled USDA sugar and cattle reports, dairy and produce outlooks, national beekeeping surveys, and commodity trade filings for this one. 12 items, ranked by risk least to most. Let's start with the one that just had its best year in a long time. Number 12, sugar. What makes sugar the calmest item on this entire list is a chart that looks almost too dramatic to be real. World raw sugar futures hit 27.31 cents a pound in November of last year. By April this year, that same contract had fallen to 14.05 cents. Picture a line chart with a peak on the left in November and a cliff dropping to roughly half that height by April. That's not an exaggeration. That's the actual futures curve, driven by a global sugar market that swung from a deficit into a genuine surplus, as Brazil and India both produced more than expected. Most people assume a price crash like that means the whole story is simple. Too much sugar, prices fall, done. Here's what that surface number hides. U.S. domestic sugar production for the coming year is forecast at its lowest level since 2019/20, with both beet and cane output declining. A February freeze alone cost Florida's newly planted cane crop 75 days of growth. At the same time, American sugar demand has been quietly falling for a different reason entirely. Wider adoption of GLP-1 weight loss medications is measurably reducing overall food and beverage consumption, pulling sugar demand down from its 2022/23 peak even as the global price collapsed. Global oversupply pushed the price down. Falling domestic production and falling domestic demand are two separate forces pulling in different directions underneath that same falling price. If sugar is a pantry basic in your house, there's no urgency here at all right now, but keep an eye on the back half of this year, because forecasters are already watching whether Brazil redirects more of its cane crop toward ethanol instead of sugar, which could flip this same surplus into a shortage faster than most people expect. Not every item on this list gets to open this calmly, though. Number 11. Butter. Here's the one that just breaks the pattern of nearly everything else on this list. No catch hiding underneath a calm surface. Just straightforward oversupply, plain and simple. Global milk production is up across nearly every major dairy exporting country at once, and butter has taken one of the sharpest hits from it, down roughly 8% in recent trade data, with USDA cutting its own price forecast by 30 cents a pound in a single month. Picture two clocks running at completely different speeds. One belongs to cattle, which take years to rebuild a herd because biology simply won't be rushed. The other belongs to dairy cows, which can scale up output in months when conditions turn favorable. That single gap in clock speed is the reason this list contains both a genuine bargain and 12 items from now, a genuine multi-year emergency. Dairy can recover in months. Beef, waiting at the very end of this list, takes years. If there's a straightforward, buy it now, the data backs it item here, this is it. Butter freezes for months without real quality loss, and there's no reversal risk sitting underneath this one the way there is almost everywhere else. Speaking of things resolving faster than expected, the next item does too, just for a completely different reason. Number 10. Strawberries. Most shoppers see a price spike and assume it's the start of something bigger. That assumption is exactly where this one gets misread. USDA's own fruit and tree nuts outlook had grower prices at $2.96 a pound This January, a 32% jump from $2.25 the year before. A Florida freeze and heavy California rain landed in the same narrow winter window, hitting both major growing regions at once. Picture a line chart that spikes hard in January, then slides right back down by March as California's spring volume ramps up. That's the entire strawberry story this year, start to finish. No multi-year lag, no rebuild required. Strawberries don't have a supply problem. They have a timing problem, and timing problems fix themselves by spring. If strawberries are a weekly buy, there's genuinely nothing to act on here beyond normal shopping. This next item takes a lot longer to show up on a price tag than a strawberry ever does. Number 9. Frozen vegetables. Here's where things get interesting, because the freezer case runs on a completely different clock than the produce aisle sitting right next to it. USDA has fresh vegetables up 3.1% in a single month, with 7.8% projected for the full year. One of the fastest moving categories in the entire outlook. Frozen draws from the same fields as fresh, so it eventually feels the same pressure. Just later, imagine a conveyor belt that started moving 3 months ago, carrying a cost increase toward the freezer case one slow step at a time. Flash freezing at the plant, refrigerated trucking, a freezer case running around the clock in every store. Every stage runs on electricity, and when energy costs move, that cost takes 3 to 6 months to travel the length of that belt before it reaches a shelf price. The bag in your freezer today reflects a decision made months ago, not the pressure that's already loaded onto that belt right now. If frozen vegetables are a household staple, this is one to watch over the next quarter, rather than react to this week's price. Notice something about these first 4 items. None of them turned out to be the disaster a thumbnail might promise. That's about to shift. Number 8. Chicken, especially wings. At first glance, this looks like it belongs on the calm half of this list, and mostly it does. Broiler production is climbing to 49.15 billion pounds this year, and prices are actually forecast slightly lower. Picture a nearly flat line running across the whole year for chicken breast and thighs. That's genuinely one of the calmest charts on this entire list. But wings specifically don't follow that line. They're a small physical portion of each bird, carrying a wildly disproportionate share of consumer demand. Nobody plans a Sunday spread around chicken breast. That mismatch means wing pricing can spike hard around any high-demand stretch, completely independent of what the rest of the bird is doing. The bird is fine. The wings live by their own rules. If your household buys whole chicken or breast meat regularly, there's real calm here. If wings specifically are the draw, treat that piece as its own separate, more volatile chart. Different item, same pattern we're about to see twice more before this list is finished. The overall number and the specific thing you actually buy can tell 2 completely different stories. Number 7. Pure honey. This is the one that fooled me a little during the research, because the top line number looks like genuine relief. U.S. beekeepers lost 55.6% of managed colonies in 2024 to 25, the worst rate since the national survey began in 2010, driven by Varroa mites that had developed resistance to the primary miticide the industry depends on. This year's number, 39.9%, a real improvement. Picture a bar chart with last year's bar nearly at the top of the page and this year's bar noticeably shorter. Genuine progress, worth showing exactly as it is. Here's what that chart hides. The president of the American Honey Producers Association put it plainly: losing 40% of colonies in a single year isn't a victory. It's the same crisis running in slow motion. Beekeepers aren't expanding. They're replacing losses as fast as they can, like running on a treadmill that never lets them get ahead. Better than last year's record collapse, still historically fragile underneath. If honey is a pantry regular, this is worth a light watch, even though the direction of travel is genuinely positive right now. Number 6. Rice. You've probably seen rice described as one of the safest categories in the grocery store right now, and globally, that's accurate. India lifted its export restrictions, Asian harvests came in strong, and prices are down 35% from the 2023 peak, with U.S. ending stocks at their highest level since 1985/86. Picture a line chart falling steadily for 2 straight years. That's the global rice story, and it's real. Here's what that same chart doesn't show. American long-grain rice acreage is shrinking hard. Arkansas, the country's largest rice-growing state, is cutting acreage to just 900,000 acres, the lowest since 1987. Not from weather, but because persistently low prices and high input costs are pushing farmers to plant less of it, even while global supply sits abundant. USDA's own forecast has 2026/27 U.S. long-grain production, down 20% year-over-year, the lowest total since 2011/12. Global rice is fine. The specific farm growing your rice might not plant it again next year. That gap between two true headlines is the whole story here, and it's a pattern worth remembering because it's about to show up again in a completely different commodity. Number 5. Arabica coffee. Brazil's 2026/27 crop is projected as high as 75 million bags. Several analysts calling it the largest global surplus in 6 years, and prices have fallen for 5 straight weeks to an 18-month low. Picture a line chart sliding steadily downward for over a month straight. On paper, this is the cleanest relief story on the entire list. 2 things sit underneath it. Shipping costs tied to the Strait of Hormuz closure are adding real expense to importers and roasters, regardless of what the beans cost at origin, a completely separate line item from the harvest itself. And NOAA is currently putting real odds on El Niño conditions forming later this year, the same pattern that's previously delayed the rains Brazilian coffee trees need to flower, deciding next year's crop, not this one. This year's coffee harvest is already decided. Next year's isn't, and the weather pattern that determines it is still forming somewhere over the Pacific right now. If coffee is a daily non-negotiable, enjoy the relief. Just don't file this one as a closed chapter. Number 4. Cocoa and dark chocolate cocoa hit an all-time high above $12,900 a metric ton in December 2024. It's down more than 70% since. Picture a chart with an enormous spike on the left and a long, steep slide taking up most of the rest of the page, one of the sharpest commodity corrections in recent memory, driven by genuinely improved rainfall across Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana, which together grow over 60% of the world's cocoa. Here's what most people miss about that correction. A real share of the price drop came from manufacturers using less cocoa, not just more cocoa existing. European grinding fell over 7% year-over-year. Asian grinding collapsed 16%. That's demand pulling back, not only supply recovering. And underneath the current calm, early surveys for the next West African harvest are already flagging weak pod formation, with the same El Niño risk sitting on the calendar as coffees. Chocolate bars that jumped from $2 to $4 or $5 over the past 2 years aren't reversing just because the commodity did. That increase is the new baseline, packaging size and all. This is now the second item in a row where a genuine correction is sitting on top of a real, still forming risk for a harvest that hasn't happened yet. Number 3. Extra virgin olive oil. Imagine a warehouse that looks completely full from the loading dock, but walk to the back and 3/4 of it is already empty. That's close to what's actually happening in Spain right now, and it's a genuinely different shape of risk than anything earlier on this list. The price chart looks like relief. Spain produces roughly 40% of the world's olive oil. This season's harvest genuinely recovered after 2 brutal years, and prices dropped from an $11 per kilo peak in 2024 to around $7.66 today. Picture that line falling steadily for nearly 2 years. A shopper checking that number alone would reasonably conclude this market has settled down. Here's what that shopper can't see. Spanish industry data from May shows nearly 70% of this season's entire production already sold and shipped, an unusually fast sell-through, leaving thinner reserves than expected right as peak summer demand hits. Early field data for next year's crop is already flagging weaker flowering across key growing regions. The warehouse looks calm right up until someone checks how much is actually left in the back. If olive oil is a kitchen staple, this is the item most likely to move without much warning this summer, precisely because the price hasn't caught up to the inventory yet. Number 2. Eggs. Think of egg prices like a smoke detector mounted on the ceiling, quiet for months at a time, then one outbreak, and it goes off fast. And this is exactly where the honest picture gets more complicated than either eggs are fine or eggs are a disaster. Here's the quiet part first, because it's genuinely good news. Retail egg prices are down 35.2% year over year as of May, a real collapse from the record $6.23, peaked down to about $2.19. Picture a line chart falling off a cliff starting in early 2025 and staying low into this spring. USDA is projecting continued production growth, and fewer new bird flu detections showed up in the first quarter of this year than during the same stretch last year. Here's what that falling line doesn't show. New HPAI detections hit 12 states in June, and USDA's own research on this outbreak shows retail prices typically move within 6 to 8 weeks of a depopulation event. A documented lag, not a guess. This exact swing already happened once this year in Pennsylvania. Months of relief, reversed by a single outbreak, then recovered once contained. Twice in 1 year, this system has shown it can flip that fast. A 35% price drop feels like a closed story. It isn't. It's a smoke detector that happens to be quiet right now, in a house where a fire has already started twice in the past 12 months. If eggs are a weekly buy, enjoy the relief, but keep half an eye on the next 2 months, because the mechanism that could reverse it is already active in a dozen states as this posts. One item left, and it's the one with no clean chart at all, just a line going in one direction with no turn in sight. Number 1. Ground beef, the one that could vanish first picture. A timeline stretching all the way from 1951 to today. The U.S. cattle herd right now, at 86.2 million head, is smaller than it's been at any point across that entire 75-year span since the year before Eisenhower took office. Every other item on this list has some real path to easing faster than people expect. This one doesn't. And vanish here doesn't mean beef disappears from the shelf entirely. It means the version most families actually plan a weekly budget around. An affordable pack of ground beef, grabbed without doing math at the meat case, is the thing most at risk of quietly disappearing from that budget before anything else on this list even finishes playing out. Here's what a shopper actually experiences: the same package costing a little more every single time they come back. Nothing dramatic on any one trip, just a number that keeps climbing. Beef and veal prices are up 12.9% year over year. Wholesale beef is at all-time highs for this point in the season, and USDA's own forecast points to another 7 to 9% increase before the year closes. Picture a line chart that's been climbing for 8 straight years without a single meaningful pullback. That's the actual shape of this one. And no other item on this list has a chart that looks like it. Why does this surprise people more than anything else here? Because grocery supply doesn't work like a warehouse. You can't just order more cattle the way a store reorders cereal. Rebuilding a herd is closer to planting an orchard than restocking a shelf. You don't see the result for years. A calf conceived today needs roughly 9 months of gestation, then 18 to 24 months of growth before it ever reaches a store. Any decision made right now to rebuild doesn't land until 2028 at the earliest. Layer on top of that the U.S. border closure to Mexican cattle imports in May 2025, after a screwworm detection, cutting off a supply line that had accounted for roughly 62% of U.S. cattle imports in prior years. Any calf conceived today doesn't reach your grocery store until 2028. That's the one sentence worth remembering from this entire list, because unlike honey's slow recovery or olive oil's thin reserves, there's no faster biological path available here, no matter how the rest of this year's data shifts. 12 items, ranked by real risk, and the shape of that ranking tells you more than any single price tag could. Sugar and butter are having a genuinely calm year for reasons that have nothing to do with luck. Strawberries and frozen vegetables are timing problems that resolve themselves within a season. Honey and rice look reassuring on the surface, while something underneath keeps quietly tightening. Coffee, cocoa, and olive oil are relief stories, each sitting on a real, documented risk for a harvest that hasn't happened yet. And ground beef sits alone at the top of this list. The one item where the chart has been climbing for 8 straight years without a single real pullback. That's the actual shape of grocery risk right now. Not a straight line in one direction, but 12 different charts, each telling its own story. And the only way to tell which is to look at what's actually driving the number, instead of just the number itself. The households that come out ahead aren't the ones who panic at the first headline. They're the ones who can tell the difference between a price that's temporarily uncomfortable and one that's actually run out of runway. Which of these 12 hit closest to home for you? Drop it in the comments. I read every one.